Okay.
It's I think this is the worst relic in the game.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we are going to be diving into relics. More specific, we're going to be talking about the rare relics for the standard area. And if you're somebody like me who has some basic knowledge of the game, but feels like the relics, you need like a PhD to understand how they work, we brought the guy who knows almost everything and anything about these. And it is Mr. Bick. Bick, how are you, brother?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I got to say, first of all, thanks again for coming on today and spending some time helping the community find out more about these relics. We will be doing more dedicated guides as we go on for every rarity, but I feel like today was probably the better time to talk about the rare ones. So again, if you guys are like me, I don't have a PhD, and some of these things are really confusing on how they work. So let's jump into, I guess, let's start with the first one, right? If I could ever figure out how to get into the screen that I'm looking for. There we go, Relic Index. That's the one that I'm looking for. So let's talk about Holy Grail real quick. Now this one gives us attack, HP, and crit damage. Is this one that you would consider leveling to 6 star? Is it would you put the resources in, or is this kind of just like, let me use it for food? And who would you know, where would you see this used?
Yeah. So basically, how I evaluate relics is I look at like the different things they give, and the first thing would be looking at the stats. And especially because these upgrade materials are kind of hard to get, like the chickens, you have to use relics to like get higher level relics to then use in chickens. It is very unlikely for me to waste all these relics in chickens to upgrade the Unholy Grail to the point where I will ever get the critical damage. So for me, I also don't think the HP is that relevant on the relic, but basically for me I would max out the attack and leave it at that if I would ever use this.
So where would you use the Unholy Grail? Like, what kind of scenario would you envision yourself using it in?
Yeah, so for me this I like to control the narrative, and this relic is kind of I would say hard to use because the effect of it beyond the flat attack only applies when the wearer has debuffs. So the only scenario I would be using this relic is if I am controlling the debuffs that are being placed. And a standout champion for that would be Gurptok, the Mossbeard, who's an Ogren tribe champion. And his A3, Cloud of Spores, will apply 3 debuffs. So
okay,
this would be
so this would work for like a Trunda composition where she gets the 3 poisons on her, right? Okay.
yeah, if you've been very unlucky with your relics, and you're running a Gurptok team, then you could put this on your nuker. It would still not be my preferred relic, obviously. There are way better relics, but this would basically be the only use case that I could think of it.
Okay. Now, how high would you suggest people rank this one up for just general use on their accounts?
I mean, yeah.
Eventually, I'm guessing eventually it'll be food. But
eventually it'll be food, yeah. So the way I look at these relics, and even some of the epics, I have already used the Hatter's Reserve from the event group. I've already used it as food, for example, because I'm never going to be using 6 of those.
okay.
So yeah, I don't think that it's like a bad thing to do. But yeah, definitely don't waste your epic. It's definitely the rares that you want to be using as food. And this one is definitely contender to be a chicken. So what I would recommend is, if you are in a position where you really need a little bit more damage, then you can put this on a champion, level it up to 3, maybe like level 6. And then you can like still take it off the champion for rather cheap, because the equipping and unequipping cost is based on the rarity of the artifact. And then when you're at the point where you have better artifacts, you can basically rank them up and use these as chickens for when you go like higher ranks on the other better artifacts. So that's what I would do. So I would definitely not take this one too high, especially not early. I would rather get like my rares and my good rares, my epics, and my legendaries up, and then once I need to like level up those to higher rarities, then this is definitely one of the contenders to be a chicken.
Okay. So overall, Unholy Grail is a chicken. Don't invest too much in it. Let's talk about Mask of Rage. Now, this one, I can't find a single case use because it definitely seems like a chicken to me. Where it receives 5% less damage from enemies under provoked debuffs. Now, it gives us HP, defense, and accuracy. I don't know. Am I mistaken that this is a 100% chicken?
Yes, you are mistaken.
Okay. All right. What am I missing?
So, I think this relic is actually very good for PvP.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people are going to be looking weird at me saying this, but if you click on the information button, you can see that there's a multiplicative damage reduction percentage. And those are 5 2s, so you can get a 15% damage reduction on this. And I know it might sound weird, but I think Provoke is a very strong mechanic, especially in PvP. You have it on Harima, and you also see people using it on Molly. Now, this relic gives HP, defense, and accuracy, and those are exactly the stats you're looking for. And the damage reduction is kind of a big deal to me. Now, I don't recommend prioritizing this by any stretch of the means, and for a lot of people, this is going to be a chicken. However, down the line, I can definitely see myself maxing a single Mask of Rage to put on a Harima or a Molly for something like Tag Marina and just be very, very annoying with it.
Okay.
For PvE, I think this is one of the best early game relics you can get. One of the free champions you get for logging into the game as a new player is Jizzo. And Jizzo is an actual amazing early game Hydra provoker. However, early game you're going to be struggling with getting like enough HP, enough defense, like getting your champions to the point where they can live long enough for you to deal damage. And this Mask of Rage has, on my free-to-play alt account, it has pushed Jizzo to a point where he's able to survive in Hydra long enough for me to get to like the top chest.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think it's a bit of an interesting relic because what I'm saying is I am valuing this relic highly for very early game accounts because you get the guaranteed Jizzo, who is a provoker. And I am valuing it highly for accounts that are at the point where they're very far in the game and they want to have fun. But for like a large chunk of the population, this is also going to be a chicken. But do keep in mind, this relic has use cases for it.
So the damage reduction here is additive, it's not multiplicative. So 15%,
Correct.
that is actually kind of huge. So I don't want to backtrack too much, but does the Unholy Grail now give us, what is it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Is it 8% more if you have it? Okay, so 8% more damage.
Even the percentages of the Unholy Grail, they are very low. 1% is the minimum. So like you're getting 11% crit damage from maxing it out, and you're getting like the minimum amount of damage increase until you hit the level 6. Like from an investment point perspective, the resources that you're putting in will never be worth it to max the Unholy Grail, while the Mask of Rage having a 15% damage reduction is kind of a big deal, especially on the type of champions that already want these stats and are like integrating the provoke mechanic into their kits.
Okay. All right. So is this one now, would this one take priority to level over the Unholy Grail, or would it still be a chicken contender right there?
So if you're early game and you're getting into Hydra, I would keep one Mask of Rage and I would level this up. Put it on your Provoker. Like if you're, depending on when you join, there will be a different login champion, but one of the login champions that you can get is Jizzo. And this Mask of Rage is amazing on Jizzo. So early game accounts, keep your Mask of Rage. Keep one of them.
Okay.
People that are in the mid game, late game, like you're probably going to be using this as a chicken, especially now because you want these relics. But I personally am using one Mask of Rage on my own account, and it's actually been quite decent for me so far. So yeah, I can see people like in the late end game keeping one Mask of Rage and actually ranking it up once they have like all the other stuff ranked up.
Next up is the Journal of Necrotos. Now this one seems pretty interesting, and I think this is the one that almost everybody says you must have. He's like, it's like the apothecary of rare relics.
I love this relic. I freaking love it.
Where heals and turn meter increase effects applied to all allies are boosted by 15%. We get some HP, defense, and resistance. So go ahead. What am I missing anything when I say it's the apothecary of relics?
You are maybe missing the fact that it has a 3% increase per level. So it goes all the way up to a 30% increase.
Oh wow.
It is absolutely insane because especially if we're looking like early game, we're looking at Haikatoon, right? For the very early game accounts. Mid game, we're like looking at Arbiters for PvP. Maybe you have a Rector Drat. The healing will be boosted on her fail ability.
Yep.
Yeah, A2. This relic is so incredibly simple and effective, and it has all the right stats, right? You want this on like a tanky survivable champion. It gives you HP, it gives you defense, it gives you resistance, but it gives you a 3% increase per rank, which is massive. On top of that, you have the blue gem slot, which is exactly what you want because you can slot in turn meter increase effects are boosted by another 10%, which will also further boost yeah, that's the one, which will also further boost the turn meter increase on the champion itself, so it can cycle like a little bit faster to the turn meter increase. I think this is amazing. I am personally using this on every champion that has a turn meter or a heal that I can find on, and I want more of these journals. I think I have 4 or 5 of them in use at the moment.
Wow.
And I'm still looking for them. I'm using it on my Raka in Chimera. I am using one in every Hydra team. I am using it in my Life Arena team on 2 different champions in the same team. I think this one is amazing. This is definitely not a chicken, and this is personally my favorite rare relic.
Okay, so if we were to, for the general population out there, if we were to compare it to an apothecary or maybe Cold Heart, because Cold Heart has a lot of value even in the end game, which one would you say it is, just so people understand how good of a relic this is?
This is definitely a Cold Heart for me.
Okay.
This is a relic I'm going to be using on an early game account, on a late game account, on an end game account, and this is a relic that I will eventually be maxing out.
Okay.
Because even like to give like proper context for something, if you have a Senna for Chimera, who is like the champion in Chimera at the moment, I cannot think of a better relic than this.
Okay. All right. So Journal of Necrotos is the #1 as for the rares as of right now. Let's take a look at Rod of Blasphemy. Now this one, where it receives 2% less damage if they're under any debuffs. gives us HP, attack, and accuracy. I feel like this is more like a PvE type of situation, like Hydra, if you don't build resistance. But what are we talking about here?
I think this is the counterpart to the Unholy Grail. So instead of like giving attack on the first levels, we're getting HP, and then the attack is in the mid slots, and then instead of having crit damage, we get accuracy. The percentages are equally terrible as the Unholy Grail. You get like a bunch of 1% into a 2%. And I think this is a terrible relic. Also, like very, very niche early game if you need that extra HP, if you need that little bit of extra additional survivability. But this is definitely the most chicken of the chickiest relic.
Okay.
It's I think this is the worst relic in the game.
Okay. All right. So Plarium, you need to go back. You need to take a look at this and give it a buff. So looking at the relics, if we're placing them in order, I guess at number 4 comes in the Rod of Blasphemy. Number 3 comes in the Unholy Grail. Then number 2 comes in the Mask of Rage. And Journal of Necrotos is number 1 for the rare relics in the standard forms. Did I get that right?
You got it right, and there are mighty giant leaps between Journal and the others.
Keep your Journal of Necrotos. Now this would go on like your support champions, like your Arbiters, your Sifis, that kind of stuff, right? Turn meter boosters. So, man, I learned a lot today on this. For the first, I thought that these were all multiplicative based off of the 2%, because that's how usually Raid does most of their stuff. So I never really understood. Didn't think that it was going to be a huge increase, but if since they're additive, and this one, I'm not gonna lie, I've probably fed like 1 or 2 of these. I probably fed 1 or 2 of the Journal of Necrotos.
Yeah.
So now I got to go back and kick myself in the rear end.
I think the takeout here is that we just got these relics, right? And like these are not the relics that we're going to be actively focusing. We're going to be focusing the epics, the legendaries, and if you're lucky enough to get a mythical, you're going to be focusing those. But like down the line, or like if you're not lucky, then some of these relics are going to be interesting, and more so, because you're going to be like looking for very specific things on champions, and Journal of Necrotos is extremely specific. Mask of Rage is also extremely specific, and in the case of Mask of Rage, like you probably never want more than 1 of them on your account, unless like you're some like very big provoke enthusiast. But even then, like provoke doesn't really stack within the same team, right? If you put up provoke, then provoke is up, and that's kind of it. But Journal of Necrotos is like one of those relics where you want multiple of, because a single team can have multiple healers or turn meter increasers or champions that do the both. And this one will tick a lot of boxes for a lot of champions until we get to the point where people have either like amazing gems and they want to use these as much as possible, and then the gem slot becomes a limitation. But even when you reach that point, you're gonna probably be like moving your Journal of Necrotos down to another champion. And the other thing is, like we said at the beginning of the video, you can take off these relics for rather cheap because it's based on rarity, and you can move them around and put them on other champions or use them as food later on. So you're going to be getting a lot of them as well, because they are considered like the garbage relics. So if you fed 1 or 2 of them, I wouldn't be too bothered with it. If you're like, okay, I can't be bothered with this at the moment, that's also fine. But we're talking about like very varying stages of the game, where we're talking about very, very early game and very, very late game. And we don't know, like, we're going to have more relics down the line, and I wouldn't be surprised if we had a better version of the Journal of Necrotos down the line, where eventually people are going to be saying, like, why would you invest in Journal of Necrotos? But at the moment, in the current state of the game, Journal of Necrotos is one of my most sought after relics, because I can just put it on and just have a massive boost in my healing and turn meter. And speed is king, and turn meter is speed, so...
That definitely opened up my eyes. I think I have 3 of them now, so I could have had 5, I guess, or 6. Bad judgment call on me. I guess next time before I do something like this with the relics, I'm just gonna ask you, should I or should I not?
Yeah, I have a bunch of friends who already do that, so you can join the app group.
Hey, Bick, I want to say again, thank you so much for joining me today. Again, you're helping the community, guys. If you already haven't, make sure you go follow Bick over on YouTube and Twitch. His links will be in the pinned comment below. Join us every Sunday, 2 p.m. EST for the Knights of Teleria podcast, where we dive into the world of Raid Shadow Legends, discussing everything from free-to-play strategies to pay-to-win insight, and covering the journey from early to mid-game. Whether you're a newbie or a seasoned player, we have something for everyone. Don't miss out on the Knights of Teleria podcast, the only podcast for Raid Shadow Legends. All right, but it's that time of the video where I gotta ask for a shout out. So, Bick, what do you got for me, brother?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me again. Really enjoy doing these, and I'm gonna shout out Nacho Plays 50. He does a lot of Hydra help and takeovers, and I think he's like one of the most uplifting people on Twitch to watch play Raid Shadow Legends. He always brings good vibes and very entertaining, so definitely check him out if you can.
All right, yeah, Nacho, definitely a great guy. We when we first started the Knights of Teleria podcast, we had that back and forth, which the community loved. I think they called it the Blazing Roast, so it was definitely a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun. Guys, as always, much love, much appreciation. Be safe, be well, be good to each other, and we'll catch you guys next time.